An abandoned pizzeria turns into a terrifying nightmare with killer robots and a dark secret inside. The movie of Five Nights at Freddy's starts with a security guard working at Freddy Fazbear Pizza Place. He seems scared and tries to flee the control room, but is caught and tied to a chair with a torture machine in front of his face. He tries his best to break free, but ultimately fails and... The security cameras show a pixelated image of the pizzeria in its heyday, with 5 kids at a party and a yellow rabbit taking them away one by one. Now, remember this detail because it will be important later. The protagonist of this story is Mike Schmidt. He has trouble sleeping well and wakes up every day at 6 in the morning to work as a security guard at the mall. He's a hero because, despite being young, he single-handedly supports his little sister Abby, who's still in school, loves to draw, and has many secrets herself. Mike tells a coworker that he's reading about dream theory, which states that everything you've seen throughout your life is recorded in your memory and can be retrieved through your dreams. At that moment, something goes wrong, and a man appears to be kidnapping a child. Mike lunges at him and starts beating him up until he realizes the huge mistake he's made. The kidnapper was not a kidnapper, but the child's father. Mike is, of course, promptly fired and sent to employment counselor Steve Raglan, who seems very surprised to read Mike's last name, as if he knows him from somewhere before. Steve offers him a seemingly perfect job, a night security guard at the abandoned Freddy Fazbear Pizza Place. Mike doesn't love the idea that much, both because of the low salary and because he can't leave his sister alone at night. Even though he declines, Steve gives him a business card in case he changes his mind. Mike comes home devastated from the events, and there he finds Max, a friend who's acting as Abby's babysitter while Mike works. She has a rather sinister attitude though, and seems to be hiding something. Abby is in her room drawing as usual. Mike tries to get her to eat something, but she doesn't want to stop drawing. Abby then tells Mike not to sit on her invisible friend who's on the bed, to which Mike reacts by letting it go and ignoring his sister. Mike goes to bed defeated, and while sleeping, sees himself as a child, having a picnic with his family. His mother tells him to watch his younger brother Garrett, but when he turns around, he sees Garrett kidnapped and taken away in the backseat of a car. But no matter how he tries, he can't see who the mysterious person is who's abducting his brother. The next day, Mike has to face something worse than killer robots, his Aunt Jane, who wants to take custody of Abby after what happened at the mall and thus get that money. Jane's ways of trying to get custody of Abby do not convince the social worker, who recommends Mike get a job as soon as possible to make sure he can keep his sister. And that's how it happens. Mike had no choice but to call Steve Raglan back and accept the job as a security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Steve tells him that the place has been abandoned since the 80s, that the owner hasn't demolished it yet because he's sentimental, and that the lighting and surveillance systems are very outdated but functional. On his first night at Freddy's, Mike finds a videotape with his name on it in the security room, welcoming him and cutting off just as it's about to introduce the stars of the show. Mike gets up and is scared by a horrible doll that seems to have just appeared out of nowhere, and in case you didn't know, his name is Balloon Boy. As he walks around the pizzeria, Mike finds the animatronics on the stage. He's surprised to see them, but doesn't give them much importance and returns to the security room. In the middle of the night at the pizzeria, Mike is dreaming once again about his brother, although this time 5 children appear behind him and run away. Mike chases them but trips over a rock and wakes up puzzled to see that his dream is not the usual one. The next morning, Mike takes over from Abby as Max's caretaker, who's asleep before going to school. At Sparky's restaurant, a clandestine meeting is taking place between the babysitter Max, her brother Jeff, and Mike's Aunt Jane. To get custody, they even consider murdering Mike, which is a step too far for Jane, so they decide to try and take Mike's new job away by breaking into Freddy's and destroying everything. So the plan is set. Jeff and the other criminals will enter the pizzeria during the day in exchange for $1,000. In an attempt to sleep better and try to finally find his brother's kidnapper, Mike takes something to help him focus while sleeping at his work. Abby wants to go with him, but not tonight. Max is left in charge of Abby once again. Inside the restaurant, Mike dreams, but this time he manages to reach one of the children. However, the child attacks him with a hook and starts screaming with bloodshot eyes. Mike wakes up suddenly due to an electrical issue. In the security room, the words "It's me" can be seen written on a dusty mirror. The pizzeria's doorbell rings, and Mike finds Vanessa, a local police officer responsible for protecting the restaurant area. Vanessa notices that Mike is bleeding and offers to help him. She tells him she doesn't think he'll last long in this job, like the rest of the security guards, both because of the low salary and disappearances of children. She tells him that she loved this place as a kid and introduces him to the animatronics with the Showtime button. When she presses the button, Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy sing their song. However, during the performance, there is an electrical issue and it ends abruptly. Vanessa gives Mike a Freddy's pin and advises him to just do his job and not get too involved. In the morning, as Mike and Vanessa leave, Jeff and his friends take the opportunity to break into Freddy Fazbear's pizza place and wreck everything, planning to blame it on Mike and take away his custody of Abby. However, seeing the destruction of their home, the animatronics get angry. While Carl is busy destroying the kitchen, Cupcake catches his attention from inside the fridge. Chica sets a trap for him, and he ends up dying as Cupcake bites his head off. Hank witnesses this scene and runs scared, hiding in a service room. What he doesn't know is that Bonnie was inside already and takes the opportunity to kill him too, leaving a bloodstain on the glass. Jeff encounters Bonnie right after he's done with Hank. He runs to the security room and sees that Bonnie and Chica are pushing Cupcake through the vents. Jeff rushes to block the entrance and get rid of Cupcake, but as he tries to flee, Foxy is waiting in one of the hallways and ends up killing him too. Meanwhile, Max was waiting in the car and decides to go inside when no one else returns. A child appears in front of her and she thinks it's a good idea to follow him because what could go wrong, right? Well, Max reaches Freddy, and as she peeks into his mouth, a hand comes out, pulling her in and ending her life too. Back at home, Mike gives Abby the pin that Vanessa gave him, but she rejects it, and Mike puts it in a drawer. Abby regrets her decision and finds the custody withdrawal papers, becoming sad, but Mike assures her that nothing will ever separate them. Vanessa bursts into Mike's house, accusing him of taking pills at work and falling asleep, leaving the place open and allowing criminals to break in. Mike tells Vanessa about his dream that he's trying to find out who kidnapped his brother, and that's why he needs to sleep at Freddy's. He also tells her that his mother passed away and his father just couldn't handle the pressure, so he only has Abby in the world and needs this job. Vanessa forgives him and throws away the pills, making him promise to do better from now on. Mike tries to reach Max to babysit Abby for the night, but of course she won't answer because... So he has no choice but to take Abby to work for the first time, and she's pretty excited about it. Mike sets up a fort for her to sleep in the security room, and meanwhile takes care of cleaning the pizzeria after Jeff and his friends mess. Mike has another encounter with the Balloon Boy figurine on a shelf, and discovers Hank's bloodstain, but doesn't think much of it. Mike finishes his cleaning shift and moves on to his security shift, which basically consists of sleeping. One of the ghost children wakes Abby up and makes her explore the pizzeria. She reaches the area where the animatronics are and sees Freddy waking up from his slumber. Meanwhile, Mike is having another one of his dreams, where one of the children leaves him a clue with a drawing of a rabbit. Abby screams, "Wake Mike up," and he rushes to the main hall. Here, he can see all the animatronics surrounding Abby and Freddy approaching him with a menacing look. Abby mediates between them, and Mike asks for an explanation. He doesn't understand how the robots can move on their own, but it doesn't take him long to connect the dots and realize that the children in his dreams are actually ghosts inside the animatronics. Abby gives them a drawing with a heart, and Mike and his sister go back home together. Once back, Mike finds on Abby's table a drawing of the children from his dream, as well as another one depicting the kidnapping of Garrett. Mike asks her who told her about the children in his dream, and Abby confirms that those children are actually Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy. Mike tasks her with asking the children who kidnapped Garrett. That night, Vanessa arrives at the pizzeria earlier and stares intently at the drawing of the yellow rabbit on the wall. She tells Mike that she knows the truth about the animatronics, that they are possessed by the missing children, and that's why they like drawing so much. Abby, Mike, and Vanessa, along with the animatronics, start building a huge fort to spend the night in the hall, with a funny scene where Bonnie trips and falls backwards, but it's okay. Mike takes the opportunity to be alone with Vanessa and try to get some more information out of her. It's seems that the older models of the animatronics had unstable springs that protected the person wearing the suit but could be dangerous, which is why they were removed. Mike is interested in knowing why Vanessa knows so much about this place, but she gets angry and warns him not to investigate the past any further. Since Bonnie had an electrical malfunction, Abby ends up getting electrocuted by his guitar. Vanessa gets even angrier with Mike for neglecting his sister and bringing her to work, threatening to shoot him if he brings her to Freddy's again. During the last night at Freddy's, Mike calls his aunt to stay with Abby during work, something the little sister feels is a betrayal. Mike, meanwhile, goes all out and gets some sleeping pills to sleep in the pizzeria and asks the ghost children who kidnapped his brother. They promise to be with his mother, father, and Garrett in his imagination forever, but Abby must stay with them. At first, Mike accepts the offer, but then he regrets it, and this angers the children, who start violently attacking him. Mike wakes up in the workshop with the saw mask in front of him. Yeah, the same one the first security guard had on. Mike tries to move a screw from the chair to free himself and manages to turn off the machine, succeeding at the last moment and avoiding certain death. He then gets a huge scare when he finds the corpses of Max, Jeff, and the others. Mike tries to escape from the nightmare, but is caught by Foxy. Meanwhile, a mysterious robot appears back at home. One of the children wakes her up and tells her to go with him to the pizzeria. Abby thinks it's Freddy, but the child tells her she's wrong. The movie here doesn't explain who this animatronic is, but it's actually Golden Freddy, an old animatronic from the pizzeria that over time became something supernatural that appears and disappears out of nowhere. Golden Freddy has gotten rid of Aunt Jane and leaves Abby free to get to the pizzeria by taxi. Once there, Abby goes into the hall, looking back to see that Golden Freddy has mysteriously vanished. Mike has miraculously survived, waking up in the police supply room next to Vanessa, who found him and treated him. When Mike explains his last dream, Vanessa breaks down and tells him the whole truth, that the animatronics want to turn Abby into one of them. In the 1980s, several children disappeared without a trace. They never found their bodies because they were actually murdered, and their killer hid them inside the animatronics. Now, Freddy, Foxy, Chica, and Bonnie are possessed by the deceased children and have been manipulated to also kill Abby. Vanessa shows Mike a photo of her as a child next to the killer, her father, named William Afton, dressed in the yellow rabbit suit. Mike notices that Vanessa had a plane in her hand, the same one his brother Garrett had when he disappeared. William Afton kidnapped and murdered Mike's brother, and now he's at risk of losing another sibling, so Vanessa gives him electric weapons to attack the animatronics and goes alone to Freddy's pizza place. Mike manages to sneak through one of the pizzeria's ventilation ducts to enter undetected and sees Chica taking Abby to the back of the stage. Mike tries to sneak in without drawing attention, and although he's almost discovered, he manages to throw water at Freddy and Bonnie's feet to electrocute them and get through. Chica is about to put Abby inside the animatronic when Mike shoots her, knocking her out. As they escape, Cupcake attacks Mike and Abby has to go on alone, but Foxy is following her, and after some very tense moments, she decides to dive into the ball pit. Suddenly, Vanessa appears and saves Abby from Foxy, redeeming herself for having hidden so much from her friends. Mike manages to get rid of Cupcake, and as he tries to escape, he's surprised by William Afton dressed in his yellow rabbit suit. He tries to stop him by shooting an electric charge, but it doesn't work because he's not an animatronic, and the suit insulates him from the electricity. William grows confident and kicks Mike to the ground, leaving him completely defeated. To make matters worse, Afton confesses to Mike that he was the one who kidnapped and murdered his little brother, and that now he's gonna kill him too. When all the animatronics wake up and become violent again, Vanessa appears to ask her father to stop and let them go. William removes the mask, revealing he is the same person as Steve Raglan, who was the one who hired Mike for the job and used a pseudonym to go unnoticed. Vanessa too then shoots William, but the suit protects him, and she ends up being brutally threatened by her father. Meanwhile, Mike takes the opportunity to tell Abby to pay attention to the drawings, as they're the key to getting the animatronics on their side. Afton then goes completely insane and ends up stabbing his own daughter, leaving her half dead on the floor. Abby makes a new drawing that explains what really happened to the children, removing the sheet where the children were happy with him and replacing it with an image of the children being murdered by William Afton. Mike turns on the light and shows the animatronics the truth about what happened to them when they were children. William tries to regain control over them and reproaches them for being his creations, but at that moment, Cupcake attacks him and activates the metal springs of the suit, which start to slowly stab William. Seeing that he has no way out, Afton decides to accept his death, put on the suit's mask, and become an animatronic and promises to return from the dead. Mike, Abby, and Vanessa escape as best they can from the building as part of the hall collapses and the animatronics drag William Afton into the depths of the pizzeria. Abby has regained her self-confidence after meeting the animatronics and is doing much better in school. Vanessa is hospitalized but is slowly recovering from the tremendous stab wound. Once at home, Abby asks Mike if they can ever go visit Freddy and his friends again, to which Mike replies, "You never know what's gonna happen." The pizzeria says goodbye with an image of William half dead in one of the storerooms while he agonizes inside the rabbit suit, while one of the ghost children watches him and leaves him locked up. In the credits, you can see Balloon Boy giving one last scare to the taxi driver, and in the final seconds, you can hear some letters that form the phrase, "Come find me." What did you think of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Leave your opinion in the comment section down below, and if you want to know more about FNAF, don't miss the rest of our videos on secrets and Easter eggs that we leave here for you. See you next time!